Hey everyone, and welcome. We are back, and I'm going to be talking about some of the issues surrounding Patrick Frazee today. And I think it took me a while to kind of feel into it and get an angle that I wanted to talk about, because I think everybody's kind of gotten the thing of crazy Frazee, and he killed Kelsey, and I think her body is actually, the ashes of her body is closer than we think. And my sense of that is a whole nother thing. However, what I wanted to talk about today was one of the more interesting things that came up was a past girlfriend. We're also going to talk about Crystal, the gal who helped him hide some of the evidence. And I think what I'd like to do as an overall, I want to say an overarching theme of today's video is really about, would we know? Would we know? Like, if Patrick Frazee walked in the room, would you feel that energy, or would you be attracted to him? It's very interesting, because years ago there was a woman who, and I think it was in Ann Rule's book, but it was a woman who Ted Bundy had asked to walk around a lake with him. And she said no. She said no, it just didn't feel right to her. So what makes some of us say no, and what makes some of us say yes? And it goes back to what I've said to you, is our personal wounding. Now, let's back up for a minute. And you might say, well, if it's my wounding, gosh, could I be susceptible to someone like this? Yes, you can. And here's the deal on that. That's why we need to know as much as we can about the signs, and have friends, so that when these signs start happening, I can go, whoa, 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 wait a second, Kim. Wait a second. He said this and this. That's not sounding good. And have friends that you can tell the truth to. Because I'm going to tell you that when I see this happening, when I see, like, friends of mine will say, oh, a friend of mine recently said, oh, met this great guy, and a couple months in, all of a sudden he's criticizing her. And his good communication skills are gone. And I said, something's not right. Something's not right. And she said, well, he had a tough past. The minute somebody says that, you're cooked. And by the way, I'm going to share this with all of you. Believe the ex-wife. If nothing else, believe the ex-wife. Believe the women he has left behind him. And by the way, this can go for men too, but I'm mostly speaking to women. The other thing I want to say is, I saw this one woman on, and this has to do with Frazee, bear with me. It was a show, I want to say it was probably like 2020 or one of those. And it was like, these women were all swindled by the same guy. And it took this woman, these women were giving him money. And then it took this one woman, she went on the internet and found out about him. Now, come on. We kind of like joke in this day and age and say, well, I'm going to cyber stalk you or what have you. You know what? I'm sorry, but before you like sleep with somebody, wouldn't you want to know certain things about them? Hi, Gavin. He wants to bring you his toy. This is his snow bunny. Sorry. Do you want to sit with your snow bunny? Thank you, sweet pea. Yeah, just there we go. So then you can show everybody. Yeah, there you go, little bear. It's a bear. So a couple of things that I want to say about that is that we really have to have in our lives some kind of stopgap, some kind of thing that gives us a warning sign that something is going the wrong way. And what I was saying about cyber stalking is that, there's nothing wrong with looking somebody up on Facebook and seeing if they have any friends, or seeing if they have a criminal record. I'm sorry, but before you sleep with somebody, shouldn't you know these things? And I think that we live in a day and age where it is being smart. There is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning, spying on people. I'm saying that if you're seriously involved with someone, or you're getting involved with them, you need to know about them. And I want to put this impression upon younger women too. My goodness, Kelsey was only 29 years old. But you see, when we're in our 20s, we're much more likely to go, what a great guy, and look what happened. He was fantastic for 4 months, and I'm going to tell you my theory on why he murdered Kelsey and why he did not murder his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa. Here's my feeling. Vanessa is the one who I was studying, because Vanessa, the ex-girlfriend, she ended up going to prison for, I think, meth addiction and selling meth. She had been involved with Frazee for almost 4 years. She blames him for her behavior now. And then she fell into another internet relationship, got involved with drugs, and now she's doing time for robbery and crimes. Sorry, I'm yawning. So the thing about it is, I know we can say, oh, you shouldn't blame somebody else, but here's the thing I want to say. One of the things that happens with people like Frazee is it's sort of like the story of taking a frog, putting a frog in a cold pot of water, and it's happy. And you take that pot of water and you put it on the stove and turn it very low. And frogs can't feel heat, so they will boil to death. So what happens to those of us that get involved with crazy is that by the time the water gets so hot, we recognize we can't get out. We literally freeze and we just don't know what to do. Now, one of the things that happens, and this is energetically my take on it, one of the things that happens, I think as a woman, at least it's happened to me, is that when somebody's behavior is so antithetical to how you think they are, what happens is you freeze. Like there's this deer in a headlight, like, oh, that can't really be them. Now, bear with me. I'm saying all this in layman's terms. You can go and talk to a professional. You can go talk to a therapist or somebody who can tell you the different terminology. The reason I don't get into the terminology is, number one, I'm not a professional in that area. But number two, I'm just a person that's talking to you about how to see cray-cray. Because let's face it, if I said to you, oh, that's a narcissistic personality, you're not going to be walking down the street and going, looking for narcissism. You know, you're not going to do that. That's not how we are in the world. Understanding it, understanding what narcissism is like being a Monday morning quarterback. The game has already played at that point. So what I want to say is, and I'm not minimizing that, by the way, I don't mean that as that's wrong. I mean it as analyzing the game after it happens is great. But for the majority of us, this is about learning how to be on the field. Okay. And I think that's the key to this, is that, you know, we're on the field. We're not in a therapist's office in real life. We're not in, and even when we get on the internet here and we start going, well, it's obvious that person's a covert so-and-so. And it's like, well, okay, but that shuts down the discussion about the actual experience of it. It's like eating a piece of candy. I can tell you it's chocolate, but I cannot describe the taste to you in a way that's going to make you taste it. So what we're talking about, anyway, this is what I'm talking about on my channel, is about true crime and how it relates to us and where things steer in a particular direction. So when we look at Vanessa, she said, and I wrote a lot of notes, so I want to kind of stay with them a little bit. She said, and she said head games. She said there was mental cruelty, and she also contemplated suicide while dating Frazee. Now, we can say, oh, that's a weak individual, but I'm going to tell you something. That can happen to any one of us, because what happens is when we give our trust to someone, right, when we fall in love, what happens is we lose ourselves. So I'm going to share something with you as women. I don't believe women fall in love. I believe women, as women, we fall in love with ourselves and we share it with men. That's the healthy love, because men can't be feminine. So men fall in love with us. In other words, men fall in love. Women fall in love with themselves. When we fall in love with a man, it's the only person we really fall in love with is those of, because we fall in love with our sons, our children. Like, And I say this because our little boys are the ones we fall in love with. But if you fall in love with a man, you are suddenly now mothering, right? So the only way to really be, and I'm talking about a male-female relationship, and you can say male-female energy as well. I don't mean to be excluding other choices and things like that. So when the feminine energy is in the relationship, falls in love with herself, it's very alluring to a man. But what begins to happen with a sick man is slowly they make you fall for them as they pull away and become little boys. And the more they pull away and become little boys, the more we go, oh, I've got to love him more. I'm not paying attention to him. Now, if we look at that as a pattern, we can see the desperate thing that begins to happen, and the more men resent it when it comes up. So I think that when we talk about this kind of stuff going on, what we're really sharing with each other is, wow, where does that line happen? Where do I stop being in love with myself? And where do I start loving him to detriment? Now, I know that may sound odd. When I say falling in love with ourselves, think about it this way. When a woman is like really juicy and fabulous and in herself, she's sharing herself with a man. It's a sharing energy. Whereas a man is not, it's a man, and I'm talking about a man, not a boy. A man can appreciate feminine energy, right? But a boy needs mommy. And so what happens is he is so needy of that energy that he has to like pull it out. And so some women cross a line, and they cross the line and they start going, oh, that's okay. Wait, I can do that for you. And all of a sudden they become more and more and more helpful. And they actually end up doing so much for that man that they've lost themselves. And once we lose ourselves, we are at the mercy of another person. So let's look again at Frazee, and let's see how that ties in. You can even begin to see those correlations, energy, and I'm talking now energy, okay? Because if you think about energy, like when we're in love with ourselves, you know those things, like if something, with women, something to look forward to, excited about something. Why is it that Frazee was engaged to Kelsey, but he was not ever engaged to Vanessa? I'm going to tell you why. Vanessa was someone who was so, bear with me, there's like that bad girl and then there's the good girl, right? So when I say bad girl versus good girl, I'm going to give you a definition here that is different than what you've heard. So try to listen with an open mind to, oh, because I'm going to be using popular buzzwords that may not make sense to you in the moment. So when I say good girl versus bad girl, I'm not talking about slut versus virgin. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about a bad girl for someone who is a controlling, who hates women. I mean, I'm just going to say it, he hates women. So someone who has mom issues, right? He's going to not want to permanently be involved with a bad girl because the bad girls fight back. Vanessa was like fighting him back, and she became so needy and so like desperate, it was no longer a fun game for him. See, a bad girl is someone who was going to fight you because immediately when you meet this person, when you meet a woman who's looking to fall in love, you better hope that she meets a man and not a boy. Because a woman who's looking to fall in love with someone else rather than fall in love with herself, she's a target. She's the target. So what we want to talk about, and this is going to be a different video, is how do we fall in love with ourselves? How do we contain that energy? And I think that's an entirely different video. But let's stay on this for a minute, and let me give you a couple ideas here. So the thing that we want to say is that he tortured the bad girl, but he was enraged at the good girl. Do you see the difference? He tortured Vanessa for 4 years because that was fun. But once he got Kelsey in his sights, and she probably toward the end did want to break up with him. I'm going to be upfront and say that. My sense is that's probably what happened. She was probably in, look, she seemed like a very mature young lady. She was teaching, teaching flights at flight school. She had a baby. This is a woman, a young woman who probably was giving Frazee the boot, and it was about the baby. So what's interesting is that his inability to please his mother energetically, now I'm talking about energetically, I can look at this man and go, this man has serious mommy issues. But what's the one thing he can give his mother? He can give her a grandchild. He can make her happy. It's kind of like he slayed the evil dragon and he brings home a prize to mommy. He was living with his mother. Duh. Okay. Back it up. 101. If he's living with mommy, let him stay with mommy. And here's the thing. Remember the honeymoon phase. But here's the deal with the honeymoon phase. Real life must come in. Challenges happen. So here's the first thing I want to say about this. When a challenge happens, when we get that moment where it's like, holy smokes, I don't agree with you. And I think that that's something that we have to talk about. Like, for example, in public, a boyfriend or significant, I'm going to say boyfriend right now. A boyfriend says, oh, you're just such a whore. And I don't find that funny, right? I think it's rather insulting, right? So I would say to that person, hey, babe, I know it's funny and stuff, but would you mind not calling me that? I don't like it. It makes me feel bad. Now, healthy says, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? I was joking and my bad. Unhealthy says, oh, come on. I was kidding. Yeah, okay. I was just kidding, but it hurt my feelings. Oh, come on. You're too sensitive. See, the moment anyone starts saying you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, two things are happening. One, ask yourself, am I overreacting? But if you're not overreacting, to stand your ground and say, babe, I'm not overreacting. If I called you a dickhead, it wouldn't be funny. And I don't think it's a supportive way of communicating. And we need to talk about this. Hold on.